Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Peter. My name is Neysa Pranger. I'm Director of Strategy Consulting at a company called Intersection. I want to thank Peter for inviting us here today, and thank you to all of you who have great stamina. I'm going to talk a little bit about the interactive subway maps that we've deployed in the subway system, and a little bit about where we see the future of wayfinding that Sarah actually started to talk about as well. If this concept of data exchange between the MTA and with riders really starts to take hold and becomes more ubiquitous underground. I'm an alumni of Regional Plan Association and the Strap Hangers campaign. Been working in transportation for 20 years professionally. I was definitely aware of the design debate over the subway maps, but never been really exposed to the richness of that as I've been here tonight. So thank you again for having us here. So Intersection is a technology and media company. We're committed to improving the urban experience, and we really work at this intersection of digital and physical, and really the on-the-go kiosks that house our interactive subway maps are a really excellent example of this. So I want to make kind of 3 quick points here. We just have a few minutes up here before we go into the debate session. But just some very brief context on the on-the-go maps of today, some what we think are kind of near-term opportunities for the MTA, not tomorrow, but maybe in the next year or 2 years. And then also the third piece, kind of a little bit more blue sky thinking about once certain technologies and platforms mature, where we could go. So the on-the-go systems today were really, designed to answer these 3 questions. Where am I going? How do I get to where I'm going? And when is the next train? These were kind of the original objectives that the designers went after to answer in terms of thinking about what types of information do we want to put on the maps. And the design principles that went into that were really geared towards busy people that might not have time to necessarily look at a map, that might be rushing from station to station or from job to job, wherever it is. So the design principles are really these, which were how do we reach the most number of people with the most relevant information in the least amount of time. And the on-the-goes, let's see. What we got were routing, diversions, and countdowns. Sorry, here we go. Some images of the map. So we got routing, diversions, and countdowns. Then this is all using existing mapping information and information that's being provided by MTA for real-time elevator outages, for example, to countdown information. And it's all because the devices that are deployed in the field know where they are and are connected. And that's a great service that's being provided to riders. So what do we think some opportunities for tomorrow are? So we talked a little bit about today where the on-the-goes are. Where are things headed tomorrow? What are some kind of near-term opportunities? And we really think this centers on unified digital branding. So much like in the 1960s when the different subway lines kind of came together, a lot of signage, different maps, there was real kind of need to unify not only the subway map, but the signage within the system as well. And that's why we got to where we are today with kind of a unified map. It's an interesting point that Peter brought up, actually, that we're at a little bit of an inflection point again with kind of the dueling transit maps. But we were kind of brought under a single map, and with the graphic standards manual, also under similar signage and typography. And that really just doesn't exist today in digital signage. So we think there's a real opportunity to unify the digital branding that we see every day. I mean, you know, we've seen all these signs everywhere we've gone, from tops of MetroCard machines to the sides of subways to platform and mezzanine countdown. It's really kind of all over the place, and we think there's an opportunity to unify that message. So imagine, if you will, you know, the design community here interested in transportation, this challenge of you know, bringing together all this disparate signage in a single unified view, both in the system and then on your mobile device as well. So where do we think things are headed in the future in terms of wayfinding? It really centers on this idea of data exchange, like Sarah was saying. You know, exchanging information between riders and the agencies that are providing service could really provide a lot of powerful and informative services that aren't available today. So just to explain this concept, I'll give a 30-second history of data communications. So once upon a time, there was one-way static communication, where you see this in the subway system every day. You see maps, you see notices, you see countdown clocks, you see advertisements. And all this information is being pushed out to you, but it's not asking you for anything in return. And then, of course, this happened, which is phones got smart and became aware, and really gave rise to this notion of private two-way digital communication, which we're all very familiar with. You tell Google where you are, and in exchange, Google sends you back useful information like traffic congestion data. You know, don't take the Holland Tunnel, don't take the West Side Highway, or I guess in this case, it's don't take the Lincoln Tunnel. So if you're, and this has led to more kind of private two-way digital communication in the public realm. And we see a lot of examples of this today as well. So Foursquare, for example, you know, when you download the Foursquare app, you say, I'll let you know where I am, and in exchange, they'll send you back information. Push notifications about restaurants that might be in the area, your friends' reviews of that restaurant. Disney has a similar system with an RFID magic band where you kind of tap in at the attraction and you alert Disney that you're there, and in exchange, they'll send you back information. They'll let you into the attraction, but they'll also send you back information to your mobile device saying, you know, you're at the Matterhorn now, the next event you might want to go to is Pirates of the Caribbean because there isn't a wait over there. So that's useful information that can be pushed back to you, and all because you agreed to let Disney know where you were. So let's extend this concept to the subway system and to transit in general. So what if you agreed to have your location known within the subway system? What if you agreed to send back your information? What types of services could you have? So a lot of contextual information, smart routing, for example. You know, if people are trying to, or if people are at our subway maps pressing, you know, the Willets Point station because they have to get out to Citi Field for the World Series, that information can automatically populate on the map. If you let the MTA know that where you were in the subway system, they could tell you where to get a seat on a subway. The second car back is going to have, likely that you'll have a seat. You can get platform directions, again, to avoid the crowds. Get down to the bottom of the stairs, go right or go left. And really, having your location known would really be kind of a game changer for riders with disabilities or for non-English speakers through wearable devices, for example. They can be spoken to in their language of preference. They can be audibly given directions. And of course, if you let your location be known, the concept of frictionless payment could come online as well. And then these last two items, demand responsive service and mobility as a service, again, looking at kind of the MTA perspective, if they know where people are at most times during the day, they can deploy service to the right number of people at the right time in order to meet that demand. And then, of course, extending out beyond, I mean, Joe was talking about the path coming into Lower Manhattan, extending this concept out not just to the MTA system, but from other systems as well. We are trying to get around. We are using the subway, we're using ferries, we're using City Bike, we're using Uber. As soon as there is location information kind of across systems, then this concept of mobility as a service, which is kind of a single point of routing, planning, and paying for your ride, can start to come online. So, the question is, can any of this happen? And we think it boils down to a couple of things. One is, are people willing to have their location known? And two is, does the infrastructure actually exist to support this type of services that are out there? And the answer is yes and no, of course. Every day people are, many of you probably downloaded an app today and agreed to have your location found in order to have that app on your phone. Every day people are willing to kind of share more information in order to get services in return. So that's kind of where we're headed in terms of the willingness factor. In terms of the infrastructure factor, obviously mobile and smartphone adoption is increasing. Proximity awareness technology is maturing. And then, of course, there are a number of platforms that are coming online within the subway system that will enable these connections. So, of course, the on-the-go kiosks that Intersection has deployed. Again, these are connected devices. Digital advertising, this is actually a station in Boston, but digital ads are also connected devices. The Second Avenue, the new Second Avenue's line will only be digital advertising. Many of you have probably been to Fulton Street Transit Center, only digital advertising down there. Digital advertising is coming online more and more within the MTA system. So again, another connected device that could be leveraged. And then, of course, the fiber connectivity through transit wireless is being laid throughout the system as well. So we think at Intersection that the kind of the future of mapping, the future of wayfinding is, as Sarah said as well, it's very contextual, it's very responsive, it's very cohesive, it's very personal. So getting around from point A to point B, as these platforms and technologies mature, as people are kind of more willing to share their information, can really provide a whole host of new services, which we think for MTA, who they're constantly in a resource-constrained environment. Providing new services doesn't happen. It's definitely a challenge. So we think this would be a great step forward. So thank you.